Now, Ruben Amorim says that he will deal with the Marcus Rashford situation on his own terms. Sir Jim Ratcliffe and other senior figures at Manchester United are going to leave the decision over Marcus Rashford's future with the club completely in the hands of head coach Ruben Amorim. I mean, the roof really is caving in on Manchester United, isn't it? I mean, the leak, the mice infestation, and now Amorim, who has been questioning the advisors of Marcus Rashford in the press conference yesterday. He said, while speaking to Sky Sports, this about Marcus Rashford.
Of course, it's a hard situation, but I understand that this kind of players, they have a lot of people around them and making some choices that sometimes is not the first idea from the players. So I understand I can separate things. I'm always here for helping Marcus as another player, and they have to do what they have to do. I say they chose to do that interview because it's not just Marcus, and understand that. So for me, it's as a coach, I'm just focused on the performance, the way he train, and then the rest I think is better for me and the club deal with that when the time comes. So at the moment, I'm just focused on improving Marcus. We need a lot in this moment, the talented guy like Marcus, and I forget for now the interview. I just see what I see in the pitch.
Crook, if agents and players didn't talk, you wouldn't really have much to do. Scott, you've probably had an agent in the past. How important is it for them to give you the right advice, and was this the wrong advice?
Well, first of all, I know a team who could do with a fit and firing Marcus Rashford. We've just been talking about them. Interesting. I'm really glad that Ruben Amorim is the one who will make the decision. It's going to be a football decision and what he sees and what would be good. So the owners in that sense and Sir Jim Ratcliffe are going to step back and say, we'll give you the power. He's a very intelligent man as well as being a very good coach. He really is. And the way he was saying it's not Marcus, he's still keeping that door open.
It's smart, isn't it? It's
very smart.
He's giving him an out to put the blame on somebody else.
Absolutely. But and he knows the people around him are not, I'm sorry, Sam, they're not giving him the right advice. But it's down to him. He's not a kid anymore. He's 27 years of age. He's got to turn around. I mean, how much does he want it? How much is he going to look at the end of his career? I just think at this moment in time, sometimes you can be in such a bubble. And we've spoken about this before as three. And I in a way, and please hear me out, I feel sorry for him because he's grown up in just a shocking culture in the dressing room. I played against the likes of David Beckham and Roy Keane and Paul Scholes and Ryan Giggs, and I could go on. And you just knew they were proper professionals, both on and off the pitch, that every day was a match day, not just at the weekend. And he's grown up with actually managers coming and going, players coming and going, no real leaders. But there comes a point where he has to take responsibility. And I hate talking about how much a player is on, but he's on so much money that he needs to say, look, I need to be a role model, be an example myself, or at least get the very best out of myself. And if you've got people around you that are not giving you good advice, he knows it. He knows deep down. He needs to somehow get good professional, almost mentorship. I've spoken about this before. A Rio Ferdinand, an Ian Wright, someone like that who we can listen to and guide him towards it. Because I still believe that there's a Marcus Rashford that can play for England again in there. But he's probably got about another 18 months to go. And what I don't want, Sam, is him to get to the end of his career. And I'm not talking about in 5-10 years' time, but maybe when he has kids or in 20 years' time, and they ask him, what happened, Dad? And he regrets what he's done because he's an still incredibly talented player.
And let's remember that this guy's had a career that most players would absolutely dream of, right? He's played in a European Championship final. He has won trophies with his boyhood club. He made his debut as a teenager and made an instant impact on the first team. The issue here is that, as Scott is right here, the advice that he's been given, it hasn't always been right. And as far as I understand it, Crook, it's even more difficult for him to shed himself of these advisors because a lot of them are family members. The idea that they're shifting the blame onto them rather than him is a smart idea in practice. But when those people are so close to him in the first place, I'm not necessarily sure it's going to work. How do you see it playing out?
No, it almost feels like a last throw of the dice on behalf of Ruben Amorim, because the people he's talking about, as you say, are family members in the main, and it's difficult for Marcus, I think, to detach himself from them. I don't think he's just talking about this interview in terms of is he being given the right advice. When you're a superstar, as Marcus Rashford has been in the not too distant past, it's so important that you surround yourself with the right people, people who are going to call you to account when maybe you aren't performing or you aren't doing things properly, to make sure you're in the best possible shape to be the best version of yourself. And I'm not convinced he's got that. I'm also not buying into Amorim completely having the final say on Marcus Rashford's future. I think it's clever because he said, look, it's a footballing decision. I'm the manager. I pick the team. But I do think there's a push from above now that Marcus Rashford is a highly paid player, the highest paid player. He isn't performing, and I think they want him out.
How are you going to get rid of him?
Very difficult. I mean, Scott's mentioned Arsenal there. Mikel Arteta doesn't touch this Marcus Rashford with the barge pole. Absolutely no chance, because what he's done so well during his 5-year tenure is he's cleansed the dressing room. He's got rid of the bad eggs. And sorry to say it, because he's done some great work off the pitch. And fundamentally, he's a decent guy, but he's become a bad egg, Marcus Rashford. And until he comes away from that, I don't think anybody's going to touch him. Not anybody of significance anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big problem for Manchester United in terms of how they manage the situation financially as well, because his wages are so high. It's going to be very difficult with his contract being so long for somebody to come in and pay all of that. It ain't going to happen. They're going to have to write some of it off. This is almost a little bit like Aubameyang, Arteta, isn't it?
Exactly.
Someone's got to take some emergency action here. It just shows just how big the job for Amorim and for Sir Jim Ratcliffe it is. I mean, what about this other story that's come out today?
Yeah.
You know, the rest of it, the mice infestation, the food hygiene ratings, the roof leaking. I mean, to me, it just shows to me how much the place has been neglected over the course of the last 10, 15 years and how much Sir Jim has to do. It is an old building. It hasn't been renovated for a very long time. And when it has been tarted up, it's been tarted up pretty much on the cheap. I just think this is another advert for this place being bulldozed and start again.
I think it's also an emblem of the Glazer ownership and the way the club has been allowed to decline. It's quite symbolic, actually, that there's a mice infestation, because, let's be honest, the owners who've been there for a number of years are a bunch of rats, and they've let the club decline. They've let standards slip, both in terms of what Old Trafford has become in that dressing room. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe has got a huge amount of work to do to get United back to anywhere near where they were. So year to day, I think, by the way, since Ineos came in,
yeah,
I wonder how Manchester United fans are judging their tenure, because they've made...
Come on, Crook. It's a massive job. You can't turn around the Titanic in 12 months. I'm sorry. I think you've just underscored by what you've been talking about in terms of the lack of investment in playing squad and in infrastructure. The idea that someone comes in and within a year changes the whole thing, it ain't going to happen, Scott, is it? Business don't work like that.
I was going to say to Crookie, you tell us, you are a Manchester United fan, an educated, but I say that in inverted commas, Manchester United fan. How are you feeling about it?
I think they've made more bad decisions than good. I've got to say that the handling of the managerial situation, both in the summer and dithering during that international break in October, when I think it was pretty clear that Eric Ten Hag should have been fired then. You look at the Dan Ashworth scenario, I think that's an embarrassment, spending all that time and money to get someone in to come in and change the culture. That was his main role. And then to turf him out on his ear within 5 months. The ticket price hike hasn't gone down well with supporters. I think some of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's wording has been clumsy. And I'm told morale amongst the non-playing staff at Old Trafford is at an all-time low. So I don't think it's been a calendar year of success in any shape, really.
Yeah, look, Sam, I mean, United should be embarrassed about what's happening. You know, we know with the leaky roof outside and now the leaky roof inside. And did you see Ruben Amorim's face when the reporter had to move? It was just, he couldn't believe it. He's thinking, I'm here at what is supposedly the biggest club in the world, and this is happening. And then there's mice running around as well. I mean, it is an emblem. It's showing exactly where Manchester United are both on and off the pitch. And you're right in the sense that to do it all in 1 year is not good. But I think Crookie has also listed quite a few things where bad decisions have been made. And look, he's learning all the time. They're learning all the time. But this is Manchester United, and you're going to be in the spotlight every single day.
Yeah, and a little bit of a warning, because I think we were probably just as critical of Chelsea in the first couple of years of their new ownership, that actually sometimes you do have to make mistakes, you do have to get things wrong, you do have to go through a process in order to get yourself set up for better processes going forward. Chelsea look as if they're in a good place now, and I spoke to someone who actually said to me, and I couldn't believe I heard these words, it's a very well-run club now. I would never have thought that anyone would be saying that a year ago. So I think you have to factor in, there's so much to do at Manchester United. There's so many deep-rooted problems that he's got to try and change. Infrastructure, scouting, football department. There's just it's non-stop. I will say this though. You say the morale is not good amongst the non-playing staff. Well, I was at Manchester United this week, and I got to say, I think they're a great bunch. The guys that work there on match days, the guys that work there behind the scenes, they are so good to us. They're so good to, I mean, listen, they kept the stadium open for me on Sunday so that we could do the Sunday session there till 6:30, and they were more than happy to accommodate us. And I think that's one of the things that the club has always been. It's always been a club that no matter the criticism it's getting, no matter the scrutiny, no matter the focus on them, they deal with the media and hopefully they try to deal with the fans in the right way. They are a very, especially the people that work there, the people, the bread and butter people, the lifeblood of the club, they are good people. And I think that, we need to remember that as well.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.